Today's JJ Redick podcast is brought to you by Belvedere Vodka. Produced in one of the world's longest-running distilleries, Belvedere Vodka is the world's finest all-natural vodka. Crafted by a collective of master distillers, Belvedere is made with non-GMO Polish rye, pure water, and no additives. Recognized for quality, Belvedere was named the ISC World Vodka Producer of the Year in 2015, 2016, and 2017. Good luck in 18. Enjoy a delicious cocktail with Belvedere Vodka today, and remember to always drink responsibly. Welcome back to the JJ Redick podcast. I have a great episode this week for you guys. I know it's been a few weeks since my last episode with Kemba Walker. Just been preparing for the season. I want to go right into my conversation with Hasan. This one was a lot of fun. Hasan has been a senior correspondent on The Daily Show for the last 4 years on Comedy Central, and his weekly Netflix show, The Patriot Act, premieres next month on Netflix. I'm very excited to hear about his show and talk to him about his love of the NBA. Let's get to my conversation with Hasan Minhaj. So you grew up in Davis?
Yeah. Do you have a connection to
Davis?
Davis?
I do have a connection to Davis. So one of my best friends from Duke grew up in Davis. His father taught at UC Davis.
Oh, wow. That's crazy small world.
And so after my freshman year at Duke and after my sophomore year at Duke, I made, as soon as the school year was done, I made a week-long trip out to Davis. And
that's insane.
So I played at the student rec center.
Sure.
Would play pickup over there.
The Arc, would you just dominate? Just
yeah.
Kids.
I remember the first game was me, my buddy, and some randos from UC Davis, and then we played 5 Asian kids. And then the next game was some of the actual UC Davis players, walk-ons.
Yeah.
It was. I dominated for sure. But I also
that's hilarious.
There's this one so I was
people knew who you were at that point.
Yeah, people. Yeah, we were all in college. It was different then. There was no social media, but
sure. But you were one of the most hated players in college.
Yeah, I didn't get the hate from UC Davis.
So what year did you graduate high school?
This is what I wanted to figure out. You might have been there.
So I graduated high school in 2003.
Oh, then you were there.
Yeah, so you were playing at Duke, 04, 05?
So when I went there after my sophomore year, you were definitely a freshman at UC Davis.
Yeah, and you were one of the most hated.
Yeah.
It's so wild because if you were to think about, take a snapshot of where we're at sort of politically and culturally, the way people get trolled. You probably were one of the most for that time.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Did I like getting trolled?
Yeah. But you were also very good.
A small part of me did. But I'll be honest, I spent 3 years in therapy at Duke.
Really?
It was a lot to process.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Cognitively, emotionally, you're not prepared for, I grew up in a small town in Virginia. I'm not prepared for.
But I remember seeing you on TV. This is where perception isn't reality. Watching you on TV and you sort of had the 98 Degrees Backstreet Boys lead singer.
I had a Caesar cut.
Yeah, the Caesar cut. Yeah. Your hair always looked wet. That look. Yeah. LA looks gel.
I was still using gel at that point in my life. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Dude, it was a big deal, man. Yeah. It was a big deal. And then
now I got to tell you this. I haven't really gotten in many fights in my life. A couple fist fights when I was a kid.
Okay.
Actually, at UC Davis, a guy punched me in the face.
In the rec center?
No, he was my buddy. He was one of the guys that came out with me from Duke. He punched me. He gave me a black eye. It was a week before my sister's wedding.
Oh my God.
It wasn't a good look. But while I was at UC Davis, I nearly got into a fight. And we were at a house party. And some kid, he was this skinny little 5'8" kid. He had a coat on, and he was causing ruckus at this fight. And I didn't know him. I didn't really know whose party it was either.
Yeah.
And people shoved him, just kind of were shoving him out of the room. And as he was walking out of the room, I was inebriated, and I said something to him, like shit talking basically. So he's like, come on outside. So I was like, all right, let's go. So I went outside, and he pulled out like a trident on me out of his coat.
What?
It was the craziest.
Like he was Aquaman?
I don't know. It was the craziest. That is my lasting memory of UC Davis. Is this little kid pulling out a trident?
It's a lovely town. We have a frog tunnel, and you got a trident pulled out on you.
It is a nice place, man. It's an idyllic community.
Yeah.
But you're a huge NBA fan.
Huge.
And so when I was going out there, this is when this is 03, 04.
Yeah.
And this is when the Kings
had our run,
were amazing. We watched all those playoff games.
Yeah. We were an incredible team. We got robbed.
I would agree. Who was your favorite player on that team?
So actually, believe it or not, this is going to sound crazy, but one of the first games my dad took me to when I was a kid, it was in 1992, I was 7 years old, was Bobby Hurley. Bobby Hurley is one of my favorite players. Yeah. But unfortunately, he had that big injury and stuff like that. But I felt a big connection to him because he was like small and undersized. I was sort of small and undersized. But yeah, that whole era, Mitch Richmond. I can give you the lineup: Lionel Simmons, Wayman Tisdale, Dwayne Coswell,
so
Spud Webb.
You're like an OG Kings fan. Before they were good.
Yeah, before they were good. And then up and through the sort of the white chocolate, Jason Williams, Chris. I remember when we got Chris Webber. I remember how pissed everyone was. Because he was a big question mark. No one knew if he was going to pan out. He had all that stuff with the Washington Bullets at the time. They weren't the Wizards. Yeah. But then that was the heyday. Me being in high school and seeing them. Bibby came over, and then we had that big rivalry with the Lakers, and we just got our hearts broken.
Do you still root for the Kings?
Of course.
Is it hard?
Yes, unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
But I love that underdog story. I think it's the best. But we get shat on a lot from Warriors fans.
What if the underdog story never pans out?
It's an allegory for life.
It's an allegory for life.
What ends up happening? We all grow old and we die anyways, but it's the journey that matters. I like it, man. I like it. I can only imagine being in the Bay Area and you're like a hardcore Warriors fan. And then you see all of this new Silicon Valley money come in and all of that bottom section. And I've been to Warriors. It's awful.
Yeah.
Section 201 up top.
Yeah.
2 and above. That's
I feel like the atmosphere has changed
totally
in the last 5 or 6 years.
Totally.
They still get up for it for playoff games for sure, but I remember going there early in my career when they weren't even a playoff team. Yeah. And the crowd was nuts.
Dude, shout out to the Filipino community that's backed up. They are hardcore, man. But so it's that, to me.
So you live in New York now.
I live in New York. I lived here for 4 years.
You lived here for 4 years. Yeah. There's no sort of allegiance to the Knicks.
I go to Knicks games and I love Knicks fans. Knicks fans are the best because they have that same sort of familial relationship. I remember I went to a Knicks game last year. They lost. They got blown out. And then Courtney Lee was leaving the court. And there's a bunch of sort of hardcore fans and they were like, Courtney, unacceptable. And he was like, all right. But the look on their face was like the way you would yell at your like nephew or something.
Right.
Why are you doing this to me? I remember I went to the draft. It was in Brooklyn when they drafted Porzingis. There's all these guys in Knicks gear. They were from like Staten Island or whatever. It's like 16 dudes. And then Porzingis gets drafted. And they were like, fuck, this always happens to us. Remember he got booed, that whole thing. And then they just got up and left.
Yeah.
Like, you want to stay? No, fuck this. And I like really respected them. There was like this Sacramento Kings vibe with them where it's like, we've been through a lot, but it's still family.
It's interesting that you bring this up because I do feel like there's a lot.
Who's your team?
I didn't have a team growing up. I rooted for
Virginia.
I root for greatness.
Oh,
I root for the Bulls.
JJ, you're the worst.
You're the worst. My team was
fundamentally.
So in the 90s, I loved the Bulls. I thought they were great. I loved Duke. I like the Dallas Cowboys.
Come on.
No, the Cowboys part.
I love how JJ, you're like, look, man, when I was at Duke and everyone hated me, I had to go through years of therapy, and I just want people to know perception isn't reality, and I'm not just this guy you should hate. You know what? I just love every team that wins.
Blake Griffin and I had this ongoing joke, year to year. Like he would be like, if Oklahoma was number one, obviously, like he's from Oklahoma, he'd root for them. But then we'd be watching the national championship game, college football, and he'd like pull out a Florida State jersey. He's always like, I'm rooting for the winner. I picked a winner.
He's like Drake. You know how Drake always is wearing a jersey of whoever's winning. You're a Kentucky fan now? All right.
Yeah, you have nothing to do with Kentucky. I was gonna say though, it's interesting that there's certain fan bases, that have like a complex, I would say like the Knicks fans have a complex. Yes. Like another extreme to that would be like Lakers fans.
Yes.
They have a complex.
Yes.
And then there's like teams that have no complex. I'm not going to name cities because I get in trouble for this.
Okay.
But we can all sort of think of.
Can you say
teams.
After the podcast?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Where you go to the games and you're like you're playing in a road arena and you're like, why are there more 76ers jerseys in the crowd? Why are there more Clippers jerseys in the crowd? You know, and it's like, Knicks fans, they're great. They're great. I deal with it in New York when I walk around the streets. You know,
do they tell you?
You just see it. You just see it on a daily basis.
Are you? How recognizable do you say you are?
I think I have
with the baseball cap. You have a pretty good.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
Like I could walk by you and be like, I went to high school with that guy.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? But like, that's not JJ, right?
Just a normal looking white dude. No, I think the sleeve kind of gives it away now.
Yeah.
So like, I take the subway most days when I'm in New York.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, for sure.
JJ, you're nuts.
And so like I get spotted, and like it's funny because it's weird. You go to like
what a psycho.
I probably would get spotted, and maybe it's just a numbers thing, but I probably would get spotted more in New York City, in Manhattan, than I would in Roanoke, Virginia, where I grew up. If I was to walk downtown Roanoke.
Wow, you grew up in Roanoke?
Yeah. Have you been there?
Yeah, a good friend of mine grew up there. He was a school teacher there.
Do you know what high school?
I don't. I can't. Okay, I could tell you the high school and like.
There's really nothing there. There's nothing there. But yeah, I mean, so do you get recognized?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have to. Yeah, I can't take. I used to love taking the train. I can't take it as much anymore.
Okay.
Also, you got to understand, as a political comedian, it's a charged thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So like after the Correspondents Dinner, like I remember taking the train, and you know sometimes people are just like, "Hey man," and you're like, hey, "What?"
Yeah.
Love the set. All right. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Do you get the opposite end of that though?
Correct.
In person.
Yes.
To your face.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I travel. I do the road. I also I'm agnostic about where I go. I want to travel and I want to perform in every city.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Red states, blue states, purple states. It doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Does this happen like when you're out to dinner or grabbing lunch before a show, or does this happen at a show?
It might happen at a show. You might get heckled and stuff like that, which is weird because you got to understand, like, people have paid a theater ticket to come see me, and then to yell in a theater to be like, "Hey man, I dropped $100 plus Ticketmaster charges and I'm here to heckle 38 minutes into the show." You're like, all right, here we go. Like, it's a different sort of clientele versus like just a person who walked into a club and it's like, this guy's performing. So, yeah, you deal with it in the moment, and you just, you know, look, I feel
like comedians are better though, like with their wittiness and their quips back.
Yeah, you're gonna lose.
Whereas like an NBA player, like if you're getting heckled at a game, like
there's not a whole lot.
There's not a whole lot
that you can do. Yeah,
there's really not.
Yeah.
Do you think paying customers have a right to heckle inherently?
No, don't ruin the show. No. It's you're ruining it for everybody else. And here's the crazy part: you're going to lose. This is just a note to all hecklers: you're gonna lose. I have a microphone. My voice is amplified. Yours is not. You're annoying everyone else around you. So it's me plus, let's say 1,300 other people who find you annoying. Yeah, it's not going to end very well for you.
You're 32.
Yeah, I'm 32. Yeah, I'm about to 33. Okay. Yeah. Are you 85 as well?
I'm 84.
84. Okay.
84. Yeah. I just turned 34. 32 and 33 were great years.
Oh, really?
Like I still felt prime-ish.
Mentally, physically?
Physically, I feel great, but like mentally prime-ish. Do you know what I mean? Like you're in your prime for me. 34, like
just sharp.
It just hit me a little bit.
How many kids do you have?
I have two.
I have two. Baby daughter.
I know.
Yeah.
5 months?
6 months.
6 months. Jeez,
she's so cute, man.
Congrats.
Thanks, man.
I have a 4 and a 2-year-old. They just turned 4 and 2.
Yeah.
And I recently was on Dave Chang, Momofuku chef, Ugly Delicious Netflix show.
Yeah.
I went on his pod recently, and he was talking about sort of the prime years for chefs, and what he said was like that 25 to 32 year age is sort of the prime years for chef. And his reasoning was basically like, you know enough, you have enough experience, your creative juices are flowing at that age, and you also sort of are still green enough that you don't give a fuck. and you're willing to sort of test boundaries.
Yeah.
And for an athlete, it's oddly enough sort of the same prime, right? 25 to 32. A lot of that is sort of physical. Like it's just physical maturation and then physical decline. But I think for comedians, I think it's totally different.
I'll put it this way. So I started when I was young. So I started when I was 18. So I'm in like year 14 now. Yeah. So I feel really good on stage. Yeah. But there's this other key component that I know I'm missing, that when I, being at the Daily Show and watching John. So there's obviously like talent, which is you're just born with it.
Yeah.
Number 2 is like work ethic. But the third, when you take talent and work ethic over time, it pays off. But the third is wisdom. And when you watch someone like a Colbert or a John, we've gotten in this conversation, Tommy, their wisdom is off the charts. And comedy is a wise person's game. Whoever has the most wisdom usually can drop the best jewels. That's one of the best working comedians right now is Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
He's been doing it since he was 13 and he's 40 something. So you can only imagine, how much, that many years of experience. So I think the thing that I have right now is youth, energy, experience. I know this stuff on my comedy utility belt, but there's certain things where I have to bridge that gap. And I remember getting ready for the Correspondents Dinner, I leaned on Steven and Steve Bodo, who's the showrunner of the Daily Show, those guys who've been doing it and who are older than me to help me sort of, hey, am I being funny here? And am I being a petulant child here?
Yeah.
Because I cannot do that on a world stage.
Yeah.
You got to get me to a place where I sound both appropriate for my age and not sanctimonious and corny.
Sure.
But
you have to toe that line anytime you do a show, don't you? Don't you have to toe that line?
Sure. There's certain things like on this show, the show that I'm about to do, Patriot Act, the topics that we're hitting are big, man. I'm swinging after sort of big topics. You got things like affirmative action, the midterms elections, gerrymandering, these big, heavy, meaty things that divide people. And there's a level of nuance required there where you're going to make people mad, and to have that sort of comedic wisdom to go, no, this is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if you felt that way with I'm sure there's people in your life that you've met like the Coach K's or who have that. It's just this X factor of in the sea of madness of hot takes and this, that, and the other, they're able to just be like, this is what it is.
I think you have to sort of whittle things down to the core.
Correct.
And so like in sports and coaching, obviously, you whittle things down to sort of an objective.
Yeah.
And I was using this example yesterday with someone about sort of dropping things in a bucket.
Yeah.
And in sports, and I'm sure it's the same way in your profession, but you hopefully you don't have bad days, right?
Right.
Hopefully you have great days or good days.
Yeah.
And every time you have a great day or a good day, you get to put a little drop in a bucket. Some days you maybe get 1 or 2 drops, 3 drops, whatever.
Yeah.
And eventually those drops add up and you've got a full bucket. And that's sort of when you get to that place of wisdom and confidence where you're in your prime and really organic, great things can happen.
Do you feel where you're at now, the way in which you play, are you able to physically take the big swings that you were able to in, say, your Orlando days? Or are you like, no, I gotta ease on the gas a little bit, because if I do this, a shoulder's popping out.
I think you train your body so you can take it.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that you get as an athlete when you age is that you learn to pick and choose your spots. So my base level of sort of conditioning, fitness, strength, it's the same, if not better than it was, let's say 6 or 7 years ago.
Really?
When I felt like 26, 27, that's, to me, was as good as I ever felt physically. But you just learn to I'm not going to do that right now. So if I drive to the hoop and I see DeAndre Jordan coming over to block my shot, I'm not going to leave my feet and try to get into his body or try to reverse. I'm probably just going to shoot a floater, and try to make him go block the shot. Throw it as high as I can.
Yeah.
So those are the things you work on.
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about. That's just wisdom, and you learn to do that. You learn the tricks of the trade and all that stuff.
Sure,
it comes. I want to sort of talk about just the career arc in general of a comedian and yours specifically.
Sure.
So how did you get into comedy?
So I was a big speech and debate kid.
Okay.
I love speech and debate. So oratory, sort of argumentation and stuff like that. My dad, actually, believe it or not, was a very good orator. He's a very good speaker and loves language and poetry. This is one of those things I think he definitely wish he could have pursued that because he actually knows tons and tons of poem. Urdu, which is the language that we speak, is a very poetic language, right? Did that as a kid. And then we didn't have cable growing up in the house. Like my parents were super strict. So I actually thought like when I would watch Seinfeld, like the beginning, I thought that was stand up. And I'm like, that's the worst. you know the beginning of Seinfeld when he's just like, what's the deal with laundry? I'm like, oh my God, get to the episode, Jerry. And then
you mean the little clips?
Yeah, where he's in front of when he's in front of the brick background. The beginning of Seinfeld, it was that cold open.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God, this is the worst. Get to the episode, And then when I got to college, when we were in, I don't know if you guys had this at Duke, T3 lines, internet connection was the big thing. Kazaa, LimeWire, Napster.
Yeah.
You could download everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, hey, do you want to see every episode of South Park ever? This was like a revolutionary pre-streaming.
Yeah.
So kids would download everything. And so that's when I got introduced to Chris Rock, Richard Pryor, Carlin. And I was really like, that really blew my mind where I'm like, they can say that stuff. And it really clicked for me. That's funny speech and debate. You're just presenting an argument in a funny or interesting way.
Right.
You just have to have a take and then you provide comedic evidence as to why that take is correct. And then that was just like the game changer. Then while I was in college, I was studying political science. I, was going to potentially go to law school as I was doing stand-up. And then became a big fan of The Daily Show and all that stuff. But my big break happened probably like 4 years ago when John hired me to join the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think was a very good thing.
So there's obviously the 4 years in college. You started at 18.
18, yeah.
4 years in college.
Yeah.
And then there's another like 6 years
7 years, yeah.
where you're just
broke.
grinding,
yeah.
What is you're obviously a very intelligent guy.
Sure.
What was your parents' reaction when you told them?
They were like really bummed.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that I remember I had a really long conversation with my dad when my LSAT score expired. We had a deal. Like my LSAT score was like my contract. It was just like my dream contract. It's good for 5 years. And it was about to expire. And I just had this really candid conversation with him where I was like, I had been waitlisted at UCLA and USC law school, which are like really good law schools, and I was living in LA, like on an air mattress, just grinding it out. I was like, do you want me to this is a philosophical question. Do you want me to go to law school and pursue a career that I will hate? What? Like I'll accrue all this debt and then I'll also hate this job versus I get to sort of continue to pursue something I love. And he's just like, we've seen how far love takes you. He was just candid. He's like, you have so much potential.
Yeah. And
I think that you could do so much with it, And so that was a really tough conversation. I remember that was in 2009. It was really hard. It was really hard. We went through a tough spot. And then I think they eventually sort of came around after like around 2011. They're like, oh, he's not changing. This is like what he's doing. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I obviously assume now.
Yeah, they're thrilled.
Yeah,
they're like
so
proud.
So your big break, Daily Show, 4
Show.
years.
Yeah,
did the White House Correspondents Dinner.
That was a bit. Yeah,
you had a Netflix comedy special.
Yeah,
now you have a Netflix weekly show coming.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be accurate to say sort of that you are on the cusp, if not already there, of greatness in your profession.
Sure, on the way.
Right. Yeah.
Trying to.
And what when you look back at those 6 or 7 years post college, pre Daily Show, like what are the emotions that you think of? Like
I call them the dark ages.
Yeah,
they were bad. You know what? I think the thing that it did teach me, I call that like the air mattress years. Is it just taught me to really, really figure out what is this all about? Like, why do you do this? And I think when you're not successful, it really does actually drown out the noise. Mm-hmm. It really was about my yellow legal pad, the air mattress, and getting up every night and doing as many sets as I possibly could and just improving myself. And it was really little goals. Like this year, I want to get a TV credit. This year, I want to make the Just for Laughs Montreal Festival, which is like a big world comedy festival.
Is that the one that Blake Griffin?
Yeah, that was one.
Okay, he hosted.
Yeah. So it's that. It's like these little things to go.
Yeah.
Hey, I know these things are things that maybe civilians don't care about, but in my career, it matters.
Right.
It's like and so those were my things. These little monkey bars, and it mattered. Those are the things that I would just train for.
Little drops in the bucket.
Yeah, little drops in the bucket. Do you keep telling Tommy that?
No, that's called a callback.
Oh, okay.
We're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. You know what's not smart? Making the lottery the centerpiece of your retirement plan. You know what else is not smart? Using your relatives to fill in at work while you look for staff. But you know what is smart? Going to ZipRecruiter.com/Redick to hire the right person. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you, it finds them for you. Its powerful matching technology scans thousands of resumes, identifies people with the right skills, education, and experience for your job, and actively invites them to apply. So you get qualified candidates fast. That's why ZipRecruiter is rated #1 by employers in the US. This rating comes from hiring sites on Trustpilot with over 1,000 reviews. And right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/Redick. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Redick, ZipRecruiter.com/REDICK. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And now back to my conversation with Hasan Minhaj.
I'm a Netflix watcher.
Okay.
There's a gazillion shows on Netflix.
Correct.
Why should I watch your show?
Because I think this is one of the few shows that actually truly takes advantage of the Netflix platform. This is a global show.
Yeah.
The topics that we're hitting on this show, you talk about, I don't know if this is even a term in basketball, but definitely the space that it occupies is the white space that hasn't been talked about. I think every show is getting caught up in the shitstorm of Kofefe. This is one of the few shows that is just like, hey, we're flying at 30,000 feet here.
Yeah.
And I think there's only one other show that really does that, Oliver. But John Oliver's show.
No, I watch his show.
Where it's like to go, wow, we have a very interesting relationship with Saudi Arabia. What's up with that?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on? We're talking about, hey, democracy is in peril. But what are happening with other democratic elections around the world? What can we learn from that?
We get caught up.
Do you get what I'm saying?
No, we get caught up in the news cycle of Trump's tweets or what he said or didn't say, and we're micro dissecting these really stupid things.
And the story isn't done yet. I had this great conversation with Jordan Klepper, and Jordan told me this, hosting a daily show. He goes, I just felt like anytime we're reporting on something, we're only a third of the way through. Like with everything that's going on in, say, the Mueller investigation or Michael Cohen, the latest update, the story isn't done yet. And I think any great takeaway is only possible if you have closure on a particular topic and then a little bit of time to say, okay, what did we learn from there? And then how does that apply to the present? And so that's what the show is doing. We're picking sort of larger topics and using specific case studies that are attached to something that's happening now. And I think that, in 21 minutes or 22 minutes, because there's no commercial breaks, and giving it to you almost like it's a visual podcast, I think will add value to people's lives to go, okay, this was a funny, interesting listen and watch,
Basic format of the show. Are you interviewing people? Are you sitting on a desk? And talking to the viewer?
If you saw the special, sort of like visual political storytelling.
Yeah.
So like the screens, the LEDs are all around me, and I sort of tell the stories through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about this off-Broadway show you did.
Sure.
It was a one-man show.
Yes.
What was it? It's like a little snippet that comes through in your bio, like on your Wikipedia page. And I love going to shows.
Do you go to Broadway? Do you go to Broadway shows and stuff?
I go. Yeah, probably like 2 or 3 every off season.
Are you serious?
Yeah, actually, recently I went to. I took my 4-year-old.
Yeah,
he's been to 5 shows now. He's going to Frozen on Sunday.
Oh my God.
I don't think he's going to be an athlete. I just don't see it.
Really.
But he loves Broadway shows. And so we recently, for his 4th birthday, we took him to SpongeBob.
Okay.
And so the last 3 weeks, like every time he gets in my car, he's like, Dad, can you play Bikini Bottom Day?
Okay.
So I know all the words
to
that song, Poor Pirates, and Chop to the Top.
Okay.
3 great songs.
Okay.
Would highly recommend the show, by the way.
Okay.
Okay. But yeah, so you did an off-Broadway show, one-man show, and I've been to some of these sort of off-Broadway shows as well.
Did you enjoy them, or were you like, that? I shouldn't have done that? I should support the big wigs. Be honest. Was it not?
There was one that I went to that was called Cock, and it was about two men that were sort of in and out of relationships with each other, with the opposite sex, and explored a bunch of different sort of issues in that community.
Sure.
And I actually thought it was really good. But it's just the way the stage was sort of set up in the room.
Yeah.
Like it's such an intimate experience versus going to see Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I did it have you seen a show at the Cherry Lane Theater? My show was at the Cherry Lane, which I think is one of the best. That's number one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in New York City. It's pristine. It's a setup on this like cul-de-sac in Manhattan, which is really beautiful. And we did, like almost like a 40 show run there. It was awesome. It was great. The thing that inspired me to do it is just, I had seen sort of Mike Birbiglia, Colin Quinn. I had started to see them, and especially a lot of comedians in Europe in the Edinburgh fringe scene start to break into the theater space. And I was just excited about, hey, comedy can go in this direction. Yeah. And just the way I sort of storytell, it's more than just my voice. There's other things that I refer to that require sort of like visual texture. And I really love visual storytelling. It just as a medium, because I think there's so much more than just like the words and the jokes that can hit you. Yeah. Like a lighting shift can emphasize something sort of contextually happening behind me can sort of nail a point home. And it was great. And sort of going from that, we then transitioned that to Netflix, and that became Homecoming King, my special. That's awesome. Yeah.
That's very cool. You've mentioned the White House Correspondents Dinner a couple times.
Yes.
So I watched the speech this morning on the Uber ride up.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. It was phenomenal. And it was, first of all,
what did you like about it?
Well, I'll tell you. So you actually, I'm going to butcher the quote, but towards the end you said like only in America can a Muslim Indian American get up on stage and make fun of the president.
Yes.
And that actually gave me goosebumps.
Yes. It makes me very proud to be American, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you sort of captured, I think, what a lot of people do feel about America.
Yes. When it's at its best. Yes.
Correct. The other takeaway was like old white people aren't very hip.
Nope.
There was a joke you used about leaving Trump alone to play golf and
let the baby putt-putt or something like that.
Let the baby putt-putt. And then you're like, the headline should read like Trump golfing, apocalypse delayed, take the W.
Yeah.
And people were like, take the W. What does that mean?
Right. Oh, yeah.
But that's got to be, I mean, you mentioned sort of getting counsel on that. That's got to be, and I talked with Seth Meyers about this as well when he was on the show, but that's got to be sort of one of the most nerve-wracking things you've done in your career.
Yes. But I was excited, man.
Yeah.
People ask me, like, were you nervous? I'm like, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I think it is the best gig in comedy. Here's why. For the longest time in your comedy career, comedy is a very niche thing. Like when you talk about the Oscars, the Grammys, only a certain subsection of the world watches that. When you are on that stage in the White House Correspondents' Dinner, it's being broadcast around the world. America is, make no mistake, I mean, we make fun of it. It is a global superpower. In that tradition of making fun of the president and the administration to their face, no other country does that. Even democracies, like modern day democracies, you can't sit and make fun of Theresa May to her face. It does not work that way. And so the world watches. And I remember when you're sitting on the dais, like I could feel this like 8 Mile Eminem, but I really felt like, I started doing comedy like September 12th, 2004. And this was April 29th, 2017. It was just like this culminating moment, 13 years in the making. Like all of those days went into this. Yeah. And it was just like, you're ready, man. You've done over like 100 sets. You've memorized this, like, this. So I was like giddy. I was really excited. Yeah.
How long did it take to prepare for that? Because I get what you're saying. Like I would, first of all, like if I ever had to do something like that, well, it wouldn't be for comedy, but like I would be really nervous. But I felt like there's a level of preparation that I put into games. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that I'm not nervous. Certain games you are.
And then do you feel the flow, right? So I felt the flow 7 minutes in.
Yeah.
So I was really like, I could feel the heart going. Yeah. And then if you watch the set, like right around like 7:28, I got really into my groove.
Yeah.
And then when I was coming to the end, I actually dropped my note cards going into the conclusion, but I was like, don't worry, you have it memorized. So I picked them up and then I knew my closing statement. But
so your closing statement to me was like, that was sort of the part that I was like, I was feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was feeling. So like you could tell that legitimately came from like a
Yes.
genuine, open, honest place.
Yes.
So much of it, I assume, has to do with your experience
In my life growing up in America. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
and it got me thinking about like comedy, diversity in comedy.
Yes.
Sort of, all these sort of hot topic buttons that we talk about now in America in 2018. And one of the things, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but one of the things that I find really interesting about your whole style, your whole shtick, whether it's performing, the words you use,
Sure.
How you look, like you're like the melting pot of America.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Because there's such an appropriation of all these different cultures.
Sure.
I mean, you've got a hipster haircut.
Okay.
You've got some old school Nikes on. You're a sneakerhead.
Yeah, sure.
You've referenced Eminem. You've referenced hip hop.
Yeah.
I've seen some of your stuff where you're talking about going back to India, like you're
totally.
a rapper. And so it's really interesting to me to sort of see all of those things sort of reflected in your on stage style. It's super interesting.
But don't you feel like, and maybe this is like a byproduct of when we grew up and when we sort of, the way we're seeing the world evolve and change, especially because of the internet. No one is one thing.
Yeah.
And I would say, this is going to sound whatever, sanctimonious or corny, but it's like, haven't you felt the more you've traveled and the more people you've met, these sort of long-standing things that you held on to, me growing up in Davis, maybe you growing up in Roanoke, Virginia, you're like, it's not an absolute like that. I'm not just sort of one thing.
Yeah. And no one else is either.
Nobody else is either.
I always sort of just, acknowledge that what basketball, this game, has allowed me to do.
Yes.
It's allowed me to travel. I played basketball in China, in Europe, in South America twice, in Mexico, to the north in Canada. Like I played basketball all over the world. And so because of that, not even traveling outside of basketball, just because of that, I met all these different people from all these different cultures and experienced all these different things. Growing up in Roanoke, Virginia, I was, I think I was 14, ninth grader. I got asked to play on the 17 and under AAU team on the other side of the state in Hampton Roads. I was the only white kid on the team.
Wow.
And there's that exposure level, but then there's inherent things that like you're what you're saying, you're holding on to. And I think our generation is like breaking down those inherent biases.
Yes.
Because the world is so interconnected now.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. But we're very lucky, man.
Yeah.
I say this all the time. Comedy is one of the few things where I really do feel like I'm a member of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Everybody has like these different superpowers and skill sets and backgrounds. For real. Like when you meet different comedians, you're like, the on any given bill that I perform, I've said this often. I'm like, if we were in high school, we would never be friends with each other. But this thing brought us together. It's the thing that comedy has allowed me to do. When people treat it as the be all and end all, I think that's when it's foolish. It's just a conduit to enriching myself as a human being. Does that?
I know what you're saying.
Like,
I think
you feel that the same way with basketball, right? I feel like the conversation.
I feel like it wasn't always this way, but like because of my experiences from like ninth grade on, like you actually end up going out of your way to find commonalities with other people, and you realize that most people are fairly similar, and that we all suffer from the same things. We all enjoy the same things, maybe in different ways.
What do you think your biggest accomplishment has been? Can I tell you what I think for me as a fan of the game, but what do you think your biggest accomplishment has been in the league?
As in the league?
Yeah. Just professionally.
I say longevity. Yeah.
I would say one of the coolest things to see is I don't know how much you paid attention to this, to the noise, but like whenever the draft happens, there's always like the pundits around the league being like, is this going to pan out? Is this not? Yeah. Is this player not going to pan out? And I think the consensus is like Redick's not going to pan out in the league. Yeah. He's too small. He's this. He's like, he was a shooter in college, but he flourished in this Duke system. Duke players don't translate. Like that was like a big thing, right? And then for you to have a long career, I think is the biggest middle finger to that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree or no?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the one thing I would say to that, and I've always done this, and I don't know if somebody told me this. I think my dad actually probably said this to me sometime in high school, but like I've tried my best. I've never used negativity as motivation.
Really?
And I know a lot of guys do. Like guys tweet about the haters, right? We talk like we as NBA players, like we're obsessed with the haters. Guys are obsessed with the haters. And
I've never channeled the.
You know what? I'm going to share one example.
Okay.
So do you remember message boards?
Yeah, of course.
So like before Twitter, before Instagram, like there were message boards. And there was this Virginia High School League message board when I was in high school. And I was on there like the week before our state semifinal game my senior year.
Yeah.
And there was like some quote from the guy who was going to guard me in the semifinals. He was like all-state cornerback, right? So he's like 5'11".
I'm going to lock him down.
Quick. I'm going to lock him down. He's not going to score on me, whatever. Yeah. And so I like printed off, like on my home computer, this sheet of paper. And I gave it to an assistant coach. He didn't know what was in it. And he gave it to assistant coach. I was like, just hold on this. I'm going to need it after the game, right? So we won by like 25. I had 34 points.
Wow.
And like we're going to like shake hands in the post-game line. Yeah. And I walk over to the assistant coach and I get ready to like ask him for the sheet of paper. And I have this moment where I'm like, this is not the person I want to be. Like, this is not the person I want to be. I don't want to.
Oh, this where Michael Jordan Hall of Fame speech type of vibe.
Yes, because you know what? It's never ending. You do it once, you do it twice, and it just becomes a cycle of negativity, responding to negativity. Like, I would rather my sort of motivation and enjoyment and sense of accomplishment come from something that sort of is internal.
Okay. So what's that burn? What is that thing?
I think it's, man, that's tough. I think part of it is just taking pride. Like my dad, did not have an illustrious career in sort of the successful sense of the word.
Was he an athlete as well?
No. I mean, he was a counselor.
Got it.
Yeah. But he went to work every day.
Yeah.
That's what he did. He went to work every day.
Yeah.
So I took that from him. I saw him. He had 5 kids. Like at one point, we had 5 kids. My dad was unemployed for 18 months when I was 9 years old, and he would just do odd jobs to basically pay groceries. We had one car at the time. It was a 1983 Honda Civic.
Nice.
Like all 7 of us would pile in there. Hopefully the statute of limitations has ran out on that one. And so I took that from him. And then so like that's part of it for me. It's just like the work. Like I enjoy the work.
Yeah.
I enjoy the work. I enjoy the process of getting better.
Me too.
Like what you were talking about in slow grind, right?
Yeah, I love
that. That actually to me is like probably what I love most about my job.
Can I ask you a question? How many shots were you shooting in middle school?
Oh, I mean, I've hundreds of shots a day since I was like 12, probably. Yeah.
100, like before. I was actually before school.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I want to let people know this on the record because there's a lot of people like when you're in like middle school, high school, or whatever. You look at NBA players and you're just like, well, yeah, like they have the best trainers in the world. Blah 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 blah. I've argued with friends where I'm like, you got to understand, this person was probably taking 600 to 800 jump shots a day when we were 13. Yeah. When we were all chugging Mountain Dew Code Red and eating frozen pizza and getting up late, he got up at 6. Yeah. This is pre-Adidas contract, pre-Nike, pre-Coach K. So you're 13 years old. How many shots are you taking?
Yeah. So like at that age, like junior high school,
7th grade.
I'm going to school
7:30
beforehand, or like we had 2 athletic clubs. So like we had the RAC and the CAC. I used to sneak in the CAC because like, we didn't have a membership there.
Yeah.
But I would sneak into one of those. I would sneak into the junior high school, and like I didn't have a rebounder. That's the other thing. I didn't have a trainer. Or rebounder.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this the other day because I almost didn't have a rebounder this past weekend in Florida, and I was like, I'm gonna have to start spinning the ball to myself.
Yeah.
And like you would literally, and I would spin the ball to myself.
Okay.
And I'd sprint off a screen, go get the ball, shoot it, go get my own rebound, go back to the same spot, and it's just this repetitive
How many days a week?
thing.
How many days?
I would do that every day. I mean, like,
are you serious?
Oh yeah, I would like
13 years old.
Oh yeah, I played basketball every day at that age.
But before school. This is an important data point, JJ. It's very important.
I would say, yeah,
because I remember I played after school.
Well, like,
don't compare yourself to a civilian.
No.
Like me.
I mean,
a hooper, a weekend warrior,
school,
if you will.
Yes, most mornings, yes. I wouldn't say every day before school, but like, I remember my senior year, like even
there was that jumping program. I don't know if you remember.
Dude, are you kidding me? Air Alert?
Air Alert.
Come on,
Yes,
JJ.
Air Alert.
You're talking to a wannabe failed athlete.
Yeah. And me and my buddy were like, we're going to do Air Alert for the whole fall before basketball season. So we would get up and we'd sneak into the CAC at like 6 a.m. and we'd go do the Air Alert program.
Sure.
No, but I mean, look, so that's what I took from my dad, like the work ethic part of it. Like, I just enjoy that. And then the other side of it was like the other sort of motivation is like the competitive side, right?
Yeah.
And so there's like, you have to sort of feed your ego. You have to feed your sense of worth, right? And so like for everybody, it's different. For me, a lot of that is the competitive outlet, and that is what I took from my mom.
Got it.
So my mom is like the person who at like family Scrabble games would like cheat. You know what I mean? And it just end up in a fight every time. And so I
don't think you can teach that.
I'm the middle of 5 kids. No, but I don't think it's taught. Like me and my older sisters, like we are so competitive to the point now where they're like 39 with kids and their mothers and they're successful. And they're still just like, they take any fucking slight so personal. Even if it's against me, like they're just so competitive.
Yeah. You do not rub me as a middle child. You rub me as either a youngest or an eldest.
Interesting.
The sort of chip a little bit.
Yeah. My older sisters who are 5 years older than me and helped raise me.
Yeah.
They always tell me like, we look at you as our older brother.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they're like, to me, they're my heroes. So I'm like, this is fucking weird. Wait, what is your, do you have a brother or sister?
I have a younger sister.
Yes.
She's an attorney.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know you got to go. You just got a call that you got to get out of here. So
any last questions?
No, we covered everything. Man.
Are you serious? Okay.
Yeah, we always cover everything.
This is really fun, man.
Yeah, this is fun. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for taking the
time.
time.
I will be watching the show. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic.
Cool.
So congrats on all your success.
Thanks,
and thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right. As always, thank you so much for listening. I'll be back soon. We're going to record a couple episodes on our upcoming trip to China with some of my teammates and Dallas Mavericks players. We're also hoping to get the prodigal son, Ben Simmons, on very soon, and looking forward to the start of training camp next week. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hit me up on Twitter because I don't have an account anymore. You can send all of your hate mail or compliments if you want to the Ringer. All right. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you guys soon.